Good evening. Good evening. This is Caroline, and I'm here for soul readings on Monday evening at 6:30 Eastern Time, Pacific Time at 3:30. I've been having a lot of experience with contracts and contracts that are not working as anticipated. Maybe I'll talk about this and ask for some guidance as we're waiting for people to come. And if anyone has questions, of course, for the guides, just pipe up. um, in my in, in my meditation, the peaceful pause. Oh, hi, Jin Lee. Good to see you. The peaceful pause. There's been a lot of comment by spirit about contracts. I don't have to talk about that here. It's in those videos. It's been so helpful. But still, when we navigate contracts, especially now, I think there's a lot of confusion, and it can create a lot of chaos and crisis. Um, do you have any questions, Jin Lee? I'll go ahead and continue. Ask. Oh, oh yeah. Okay. Well, I'm listening. If you do have a question, I I love your questions. I really think they speak to matters of the heart that all of us have, all of us experience, and I really appreciate your candor and your willingness to draw our attention to these important things. Okay. They're saying I've had this pattern or problem for more than 2 decades. I attract noisy environment. I try my best to find quietness at home, but I end up with noise. Some people think it's a coincidence, but I think it's more than that. She's recommended a living situation because it's so peaceful, but then there are noisy neighbors or something that's breaking the peace when she moves in, or even it's like a refrigerator that's having a noise problem, or the air conditioner, or construction nearby. And and even people that she knows who don't care so much about noise move into a party apartment, and they don't even have as much noise. That's crazy, right? um I feel like even if I move to a mountain where no one lives, I will manifest it again. I would like to know what I need to learn from being exposed to, subjected to, sensitive to so much noise, and that would really help life. Okay, that's a really good question, because I think that it's something that all of us can relate to, that we seek something and we go through. This is exactly what I was starting to talk about, that we're very strategic in the way that we plan. Like, this is the thing I want. These are the steps I'm going to take in order to get that thing I want. And then it turns out we don't get the thing we want. Um and so and so it can, like, I was talking about contracts because, like, what I've tried to do in the past is to make contracts so that things will turn out the way that I want, that my needs will be met, spell it out, be very specific. And so this is exactly what you're talking about, that you are you go through very concerted efforts to try to avoid noise. And no matter how strategic you are, you end up in this situation where there's noise, right? So let's ask spirit about this particular situation. So this is a situation, is that there are there are universals in the specifics, and there are specifics in the universals. And so And so we can kind of go back and forth between them. And so we'll start with a specific, and probably Spirit is going to also teach us something very universal. So we'll start with the specific of your situation. Why do you keep finding yourself in these noisy situations that are terribly troubling, even though you go through so much effort to avoid them? So we're asking Michael. And so Michael is saying that part of the issue is that you have set up too much resistance to noise. And so it's almost like a beacon, because it's because instead of like the universe or people or whatever seeing like no noise, no noise, they're just seeing noise, noise, no noise. And so what's happening is that if we say like no noise, or no poverty, or no sorrow, like the it's like the no is not recognized, and so we end up like drawing that thing that we're saying no about. So there's something in you, because you're saying no noise, it's like becoming a beacon for noise. And there's something about the universe that's like, oh, we're rising to your needs, we don't want to exclude you, you're mentioning noise, so here you go. Oh dear. And you're like, but I don't want noise, and the universe is like, but you said noise. It's crazy. And the universe is just like, we want to make you happy, you have this beacon for noise, and here you go, noise, noise, noise. And so what is the solution? The solution is not to say no noise, the solution is not to like try to create a situation where there's no noise. So what is the solution? What is the solution if, like, really what you're seeking is peace, right? You're seeking peace, so how do you get that? And so with your mouth you're saying like, oh, I want no noise. But with your being, you're saying like, peace. I don't want peace. What's that? I've never heard of that before. I've never experienced that before. What are you talking about? It's like a foreign concept. Like your being is just like, what? I don't know what you're talking about. That doesn't make any sense to me. How can I want peace? Peace is like the strangest thing I ever imagined. It's like the strangest, it's like foreign entity. It's like you can't even, it's like you heard about it, but like you can't even like, it's like an alien. Like it's something that's so different from anything that you've ever experienced. Like there's almost like an intrigue about it, but also like it's on the other side of the world. Like it's for other people, it's not for you. There's something in you that has that message that's going out. And you're like, but I want peace. And at the same, so there's like this division in you that's like, but I want peace. But what is peace? That's a strange thing. Like I've never heard of that before. So it's almost like you're two people, or there's two parts of yourself. And so how do we create unity within you so that you can move towards this peace? And so your body's like, you have to release the past of crisis and chaos. I don't want to do that. So your body's like, I don't want to do that. It's what keeps me tethered. What are you tethered to? What does it keep you tethered to? It keeps me tethered to myself, to my story, to who I am, to my identity. It keeps you tethered to your identity. And so part of the solution is to release that identity, right? To say, oh, this is what always happens to me. Oh, this is my story. Oh, look at this. I can give you these examples. And so we have to release that identity as being someone who's subject to these repeated patterns of noisiness, even though you're strategic about avoiding them. Like that's all part of the pattern of and identity. Yeah. And so you're like, well, yeah, awesome. Let's get rid of it. So what do we do, Michael? How do we get rid of that? You have to pray. You have to pray to find peace. How do you pray? How do you pray? And so Michael says the first prayer to start with is really about fear. Michael says that really what you're afraid of is peace. And so as long as you're afraid of peace, then it will be difficult to draw it near, to enter into it. So how do we pray for peace, and how do we pray for a release or a resolution of the fear that prevents us from entering into peace? So Michael is saying pray for absolution. So like so this is kind of like a Christian concept. I don't know if it's in other religions also, but the idea of like being pardoned. So sometimes we have this sense of having to like pay back or be punished for something that we did or didn't do. And so what Michael is saying is just, let's just clear it all. Let's just clear the past, clear anything that happened or didn't happen. Absolution. So that means like just almost like as if it didn't, erasing it, as if it never occurred. It's like having a fresh start, a fresh start. And so the first thing to do is to pray for absolution, because that is what will release the fear and the identity as being somebody who always is pursued. It's like you're being pursued by noisiness, crisis, and chaos. So to start with, we don't pray for peace. That's like a little bit later, because peace is like too distal. Like we have to take another couple steps before then. So it's the first one is to pray for absolution, and to be give thanks for absolution, he's saying. So we first pray by giving thanks for absolution. And what that means is that like the past, the pattern is erased, and you get a fresh start. You get a fresh start. And so because the past, the pattern is erased, there's nothing to pardon, there's nothing to pay for, there's no retribution, there's no score being kept. Then what that means is that there can be a release of fear, because it's a fresh start. So fear is referent to something that happened, or something we fear will happen. So it's not, fear is not about the present. The fear is about the past or the future. It's not about what's happening now. In this moment, there is a fresh start. In this moment, there is absolution. In this moment, the prayer is a resolution of fear. There's no need for fear anymore, for that identity, for that preoccupation that you're being pursued by noise. So there's almost like a plug in, like for noise in your body. And so that needs to be removed. It's kind of like above the left hip in the tummy. It's almost like that's the place that noise like seeks you out and kind of like plugs into that area. So we need to remove that, plug in energetically, just like you would the thing that is in the wall that an electrical cord plugs into. That's what's kind of like in your tummy above the left hip. So we'll remove that, so that there can't be a place for these noisy patterns to plug into in you, in your body, in your life. And there's something in you, that's a sadness is coming up in releasing that plug in area. There's a sadness that's coming up. And And what your being is saying, it's almost like a crying, like of a little child saying that that's my best friend. Like, I knew noisiness, I knew crisis, I knew chaos. And it was because it was so common, because it was around all the time. It was like, instead of making it your enemy, you made it a friend because it was the known. It was the set of circumstances that you were in. And so in removing this plug-in area, there's this sense of the sadness of a loss of a friend. And so what we really need to do is to honor that plug-in and how, and it was a relationship. You had a relationship with that plug-in, and how it was almost like a nanny for you. It was what cared for you. It was what was predictable. It was what you could count on. It was predictable, and you needed that as a child. And so in saying goodbye to that plug-in now, it's also in a way saying goodbye to your friend, to your nanny, something that offered you predictability in an unpredictable environment, in a chaotic world. So honoring that friend, honoring that nanny as you release her and as you move forward in your life, recognizing that you're a grown person now, that you are safe now, that all is well, and that you don't need that protective strategy from the past. That protective strategy from the past is what prevents you from living in the present the kind of life that you want. It is safe to release this plug-in, the plug-in for noise, confusion, and chaos. Blessing your nanny, releasing her, allowing that area to heal so you can move into the present, the clean slate, fresh start, new identity, not expecting a repetition of the past. Praying first for absolution, which is an erasure of the past. Second, for resolution of fear. And finally, praying for peace. Feeling yourself enveloped by quietness, by calm. You're held by peace. That peace comes from within. Peace does not come from without. There will always be noisy refrigerators. There will always be troublesome neighbors and roommates. There will always be cars that are too loud. But our peace comes from within, independent of circumstance. Our peace persists, independent of circumstance. Thank you for joining me today. And thank you, Michael, for all the lessons, all the guidance, all the insights. I hope you all have a really lovely evening and experience that inner peace. Good night.